Hello and welcome to Winchester Now. I'm Mary Blacksland. On today's programme, why hundreds of cyclists will descend on Winchester this weekend, how a night walk will help the Winchester hospice, and why the sewing machines were out at the Theatre Royal. Plus a news roundup and our community shout-outs too. Winchester Radio. Hundreds of cyclists will converge on Winchester on Saturday with the aim to celebrate the joy of cycling and encourage more people to ride. They'll set off from 4 locations on the outskirts of the city before completing a lap of the city centre, with many sounding their horns and bells. Emma Street from the campaign group Cycle Winchester told Winchester Radio's Chris Traylor more about the event.
So the mass cycle ride is, I guess it's the sort of pinnacle of the events that we run. Really simple concept. It's basically one day a year where everybody converges on Winchester en masse, basically to enjoy the feeling of cycling as a kind of collective. It's very inclusive. It's all about kind of spreading the message that Winchester is a nice place to cycle, could be a much better place to cycle. We've had lots of people do their very first cycle into town as part of that kind of collective mass. So we have a series of what we call feeder routes going from different parts of the city, departing about 10 o'clock, led by marshals, so experienced cyclists. People are perhaps unused to cycling into the city centre, join one of those rides, and the idea is that we then converge on the centre of the city to do a processional lap around the one-way system, and then we gather for a bit of a celebration, refreshments at Abbey Gardens around about 11 o'clock.
Why is it taking place?
I'd say first and foremost it's about celebrating the simple joy of cycling. If you've ever cycled in a big group before, it's a really nice feeling. We know that lots of people don't cycle because they're scared, frankly. The roads are very busy. So it's about the joy of cycling together. It's fun, it's supportive, it's inclusive, but it's also about spreading the message that actually Winchester and its surroundings is a very cyclable place. We've got quite a compact city centre. We've got lots of facilities and services that people want to get to on a daily basis. So come with us, ride with us, perhaps try it out, find a route that works for you. Yeah, also spread a bit of a message that there are lots of people cycling in Winchester.
So who is welcome?
Everyone is welcome. That's very much the message here. This year we're branding the ride Critical Mass, which is an international movement, basically spreading the message that particularly young people, very young children, love being on their bikes. It's that sense of freedom. If you've ever seen a very young child just crack cycling, it is one of the most joyous things to behold. But of course, particularly in this country, there aren't that many safe spaces for particularly young, vulnerable riders. So we're branding it as Critical Mass to send the message even more clearly that this is a ride for everyone.
How many people are you expecting?
Well, this will be our 7th mass ride. We typically get around about 300 riders. So that is a really nice group feeling when you actually, particularly when you converge on North Walls, you get a buzz. You get that feeling of being in a crowd, riding together, looking out for each other, as I said, with the trained marshals, making sure that everybody feels safe. So we'd hope to reach those kind of numbers. And partly it's about saying to people, look, there are lots of people that do cycle in Winchester, and there could be even more. Look at us, there's hundreds today. Day to day they are there, but we're often squeezed out on the side roads, feeling a bit frightened. So that's part of the message here as well, coming en masse to say, look, we're here. We could be even more in number, and wouldn't it be great if we did that for everyone?
And what are you trying to achieve with this?
We truly believe that if more people cycled, if they chose not to take the car into the city centre, we would have a better Winchester. There are all the health benefits in terms of clean air and reduced air pollution, reduced congestion. So it's definitely that message. But I would say first and foremost, it is about celebrating the simple pleasure of riding a bike and enjoying that buzz, that feeling of riding together.
What do you think needs to be done to get more people cycling?
There's plenty of work to be done. Having said that, I think Winchester has lots of the attributes of a place that is already really quite cyclable. We do a cyclist count now. And actually we're kind of heartened to see that despite the fact there's very little in the way of dedicated infrastructure, that's badly needed, of course. There are actually a lot of people cycling in and around Winchester. It's a compact place. We've got lots of services quite close together. We've got a lot of kind of neighbourhoods within a sort of 15-minute cycle. We do desperately need that dedicated infrastructure, and that's something that we are campaigning very hard on.
What are your hopes for the future?
I think our hopes for the future are that Winchester will become a place where cycling is a normal way of getting around. For very many people, particularly with the advent of e-bikes, which are becoming cheaper, more accessible. There are adaptive cycles. I've got a cargo bike that I ride my kids around in. That more people will feel that actually jumping on a bike is a completely normal, natural thing to do. That's what we were very much hopeful, and that Winchester embraces that as a normal way of getting around.
Lastly, what would you do to encourage people to come along?
I would say give it a go. It's so much fun, particularly if you normally feel a bit too scared or a bit nervous, or you need a reason to get that bike out of the shed and dust it down. Here's your opportunity. Come with us, find out more about what we're doing, tell us what you would like to see in terms of making Winchester a better place by bike. Yeah, that's what I would hope. Come along, join in the fun. So the key details you need to know: Saturday the 30th of September, that's the final weekend of Winchester Green Week. All the details, information about where you can join, you can find on our website, cyclewinchester.org.uk.
Winchester Radio.
And now for a roundup of the news across the Winchester area. I'm Steve Walker. People attending hospital in Winchester next week are being warned of further industrial action. Consultants and junior doctors are walking out from Monday to Thursday, with radiographers also joining the action on Tuesday. Hospital managers warn that services will be under increased pressure, with some appointments and operations likely to be cancelled. They're asking people to only attend the emergency department if their condition is life-threatening, otherwise to consult their GP, community pharmacy, or to visit 111 online. Meanwhile, there are further problems for rail travellers for 7 days from this Friday, with strike action and overtime bans by the union ASLEF. South Western Railway says the majority of the network will be closed this Saturday and next Wednesday, the 4th of October, with possible cancellations on other days. Customers are advised to check before they travel. A Winchester doctor who claimed he was sacked for whistleblowing about staff safety concerns has begun an employment tribunal against Hampshire Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust. Many patients and colleagues have rallied round maternity consultant Martin Pittman, who lost his job 7 months ago. The Trust has previously denied the claims, saying it encourages staff to speak about their concerns. The hearing is expected to last 3 weeks. Another area of the city centre is holding a special event to showcase what's on offer. The first King's Walk Festival takes place this Saturday from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. and follows similar events held in Parchment Street and Kingsgate Village. There will be live music, free food tasting and special discounts. King's Walk has recently been renovated with more planting and seating areas and features a mixture of independent businesses. The gritters have been out and about on Hampshire roads this week. Test runs are being carried out on all priority salting routes in preparation for the colder months. The machines are being checked, but no salt will be spread on the roads. Over the winter, the gritters spread around 18,000 tonnes of salt across 140,000 miles of road. And that's the roundup of the news for this week.
It's 2 years this month since the Winchester Hospice first opened, and it's helped hundreds of people and their families in that time by providing palliative care to those with life-limiting illnesses. The service relies on fundraising, and next month the charity will hold its first ever night walk through the city, with people dressing in purple to show their support. Anna O'Brien spoke to Maddie Thompson, consultant nurse and trustee of the hospice.
Hospice care is not just about the 10 beds that we provide for inpatients, but it really is about our local community in and around Winchester. So it's enabling people to be cared for at home, to receive end-of-life care at home, to be able to have their symptoms managed where they want to have them managed. So that might involve being in the hospice, but for most people that involves being in their own homes around their family.
And that's such a vital service, and it's so important because it's really helpful to the family as well as patients with those cherished memories at the end of life too, and so important to talk about that with each other. And people might not realise just the cost of running a hospice service and why it's so important and why you need the public support.
We absolutely do, and it is an NHS hospice, and we are so proud that it's an NHS hospice, but we do need to raise, getting on for probably about £1 million in order to really provide the services that we want. And we're looking at targeting us over a 3-year period.
And in terms of this year, there is an event coming up that you'd love the public to get involved with. I know there's some great things in the fundraising calendar, and people can check those out on the Winchester Hospice website. But you have the Winchester Purple Night Walk happening on the 14th of October. Tell us more about that.
So we wanted to do something that really brings the community together. It's the community that built the hospice, and this is an opportunity for old, young and their dogs to really celebrate the life of the hospice and do something exciting and fun that's accessible to most people. So we are starting at All Saints Church in Highcliffe at 6:30, and it's going to be about a 6-kilometre walk around the Water Meadows, passing through St Cross and ending up back at All Saints Church, where there'll be an opportunity to buy some hot food.
And there's an opportunity for people to purchase merchandise as well. And purple, people will be familiar with the logo of the hospice. Tell us about it.
The logo of the hospice is, I hope now, getting more familiar to everybody. It's actually an allium, which is a flower that comes out in the spring, and the reason we really wanted it as an emblem for the hospice is because of the seeds that blow off. So if you think of the allium flower as the hospice itself, and all the seeds that come from that are all the many services that we're continuing to develop, and over the next few years, just watch this space, it's just going to get bigger and better.
And for folks who do want to find out more about getting involved with the hospice, because there could also be people listening who think, I'd love to give my time as a volunteer, you do rely on a lot of volunteer help and ambassadors to champion the cause as well.
We cannot run the hospice without our volunteers. People give their time. Some people like to be patient facing. Some people prefer to do the very important things in the background. We desperately need people in the evenings and weekends on our reception. We've got a wonderful bunch of volunteers that help out in this beautiful garden that we're sitting in now. And also there are other ways that people can help. So people sew for us, they make quilts, they make bags to hold medication and things like that. There are lots and lots of ways. I'm happy to talk to anyone that wants to volunteer at the hospice.
And this garden that we are sat in is beautiful. And of course this was a donation from the Chelsea Flower Show, and it was the Bible Society which helped get it to Winchester.
It was. So the garden was commissioned by the Bible Society. It's based on Psalm 23 and was at Chelsea a couple of years ago. The idea that the sort of running water and the calmness that prevails, we hope, throughout the hospice, but it's also a place of huge life and lots of laughter as well.
And I think that's the thing, as a hospice environment, there is a lot of joy as well, because people are very supportive of each other, patients, families and staff.
It's an incredibly supportive environment. It's so wonderful to work with people that want to spend time with each other on their days off. We go on dog walks as staff groups. We've done lots of fundraising as a staff group as well. And many of our families pop back in and have a cup of tea with us after they no longer need hospice services.
So if somebody has received care here, if families are listening, if they've got good walking shoes, if they've got four-legged friends, they can bring them along to this Winchester Purple Night Walk, Saturday the 14th of October. So it is a 6-kilometre circular walk, as you say, and I believe people can book through the website.
They can.
Thank you so much for talking to us at Winchester Radio.
You're very welcome. Lovely to be here.
Hi everyone, it's shout-outs time, so that must mean that I'm Paul Blitz. Let's start out by saying congratulations to everyone who took part in the Winchester Half Marathon last weekend. 800 runners set off from the Guildhall, with the route taking in the city and the countryside around Winchester, including those hills. Many people were raising money for charity. The winner, George King, completed the course in an incredible 73 minutes. By my calculations, that's an average of just over 10 miles an hour. Nice one, George. Well done to the staff at local estate agents Belgarum, who donned their walking boots to tackle a 20-mile sponsored walk across the South Downs in aid of the Winchester Hospice. They managed the challenge in 7 hours 56 minutes despite facing torrential rain, and they raised a wonderful £2,000. Each year the company supports a different local charity, with staff voting to fundraise for the hospice in 2023. Trinity Winchester has given a big thank you to people in the local community for their donation of sewing equipment. A few weeks ago, volunteers put out an appeal for help on social media as they plan to start doing sewing workshops for their clients. Well, help came flooding in, and they now have 8 sewing machines, an abundance of material, accessories, thread, haberdashery items and more. Volunteers say they're blown away by the response, which will enormously benefit current and future clients. And finally, a shout out to all the bakers out there who are preparing for the world's biggest coffee morning, all in support of Macmillan Cancer Support. The event was set up more than 30 years ago and has raised over £100 million for the charity in that time. A number of events are being held across Winchester this week, including at Westgate School and Sutton Scotney Fire Station on Thursday morning and at All Saints Church on Friday morning. Did someone say cakes? We'll have more great shout-outs for you in next week's Winchester Now.
Winchester Radio.
The stage of the Theatre Royal was set up with sewing machines, threads and materials on Monday as one of the first community sewing events took place for the Fabric of Winchester project. The idea is designed to capture people's stories through the creation of several memory quilts. St John's Winchester, who are organising the project, hope families, businesses and community groups will join in. Sewing machines whizzing away at this community sewing event at the Theatre Royal. People here working on quilt squares, each one depicting a personal story. They'll later be used to create memory quilts. Tell me about the inspiration behind the square that you're making.
So the square that I'm making looks a bit like the round table that hangs in the Guildhall. It's made from an African wax print panel that was originally part of a skirt that I attempted to make. My ambition for the project somewhat exceeded my ability. So the skirt's been cut up and it's been turned into a King Arthur's table rather. And so it's really lovely to be able to donate fabric and my time to make something that's going to be hopefully useful for the community, really.
Yeah, it's actually really nice to do something creative with everyone. This is how, when I used to do it back at school, everyone would be working on their own pieces, but to know that you're all collectively working on something together is really, really nice.
So what's brought you along today? Why did you want to be involved in this project?
Well, I love sewing. I do fabric art, sort of applique pictures, just for fun at home. And so I thought, if they needed people to help sew quilts, then I'd happily come along and do that, though I've never done a quilt.
And tell me a bit about the square that you're making.
Well, I'm making a boy and a girl. They're holding hands and walking up the high street.
And that's your memory of Winchester, is it? A particular memory?
Well, I live in Winchester, and so I am up and down the high street very often, and so it sort of does directly relate.
And how do you feel about this quilt project?
It's fantastic. People are there to help you. I'd highly recommend a visit.
On hand are members of Wessex Quilt Makers and memory artist Katie Rundle, helping people turn their ideas into creations.
Well, this is actually my first workshop, so it's a bit of a learning curve for me at the moment, but response is really positive. Some people come with formulated ideas of what they want to create, and others really are a bit of a blank sheet of paper initially, and then we have a chat about Winchester and what they think about when they think of Winchester and capture it that way.
And what sort of ideas have people come with?
All different things. There's St Catherine's Hill, the High Street is what I've been working on with Celia here. Someone else was actually led by the fabrics and loved these botanical prints, loves Winchester for a variety of reasons, and created a collage with the fabrics.
And what's your vision? What would you like it to be like in the end?
I think I want it to be joyful mainly and really meaningful when you read the stories that are attached to the pieces that people create. I used to be a Macmillan nurse in Winchester, so the fact that this circles back to the hospice I think is really special as well.
My name is Helen Stevens and I'm chairman of Wessex Quilt Makers.
And what do you think about this project?
I think it's a very good way of introducing sewing to the community and enjoying sewing, because that's really important. People shouldn't be put off by thinking they can't do it, because everybody can sew. I started off quilting and I had never had any lessons. I just started, and that's what you need to do, I think.
And quilting in particular, what's special about doing that and these squares that are being made here today?
It's a very calming thing to do. You can just lose yourself in quilting, either hand quilting, which is what I love to do, or machine quilting. However you do it, it doesn't matter, because you will get enjoyment out of it. And at the end, the project that you've done is very satisfying to do. I just love it.
The community sewing days are free to attend, although donations to St John's Dementia Service are appreciated. The idea for the memory quilts came from project lead Maddie Cowell to share the joy of storytelling.
The best thing for us has just been sitting down next to someone as they're making a block and just hearing the story as to what they've actually designed and what it means to them, and that's just been the highlight for me. And then people just rifling through all the fabrics and saying, oh, this reminds me of such and such, and oh, this looks like the tablecloth that my grandma used to have on her table when we used to go around for lunch, so it's been really lovely.
And tell me a bit about some of the ideas that people have come forward with today.
So today, what have we had today? We've had somebody was designing something about the Winchester High Street. From previous sewing days, we had someone who was from Bristol and she designed a hot air balloon balloon, because in Bristol they have the largest hot air balloon in the country. So we've had another couple who they travelled to New York. So one of them did the New York skyline, and then the other woman, she had great memories of going to the beach with her dog. So she did some beach towels with hats and bags, and the dog was running around. So we've just had some really beautiful stories. I think one of our residents, she used to go to a church on the Dorset coast with her sister and father every Sunday. So she did the church building on top of this coastline with the sort of water and fish in the sea as well. So there's just been some really beautiful designs that have come out of it and just been inspired by people's cherished memories.
And it seems like a lovely atmosphere here. There were sewing machines going off. Is this what you imagined it and hoped it would be?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we've been nervous leading up to these, sort of thinking, have we got everything ready? Are we ready to do this sort of thing? And actually, once everyone's been in the room, they've just loved the opportunity to use a machine like this to rifle through some of these really impressive and quite creative fabrics, and to learn skills, to have the Wessex quilt makers here showing us how to sew, to have Katie Rundle here who can talk to us about how we might be able to design a block that represents our memory. So I think all in all, we're so pleased with how the project's going so far, and we just hope it continues with this momentum.
And there's more groups as well that people can get involved with.
So we have a few more community sewing days coming up. We've got one on the 5th of October, Thursday the 5th of October at the Winchester Bakery, one on Friday the 13th of October, and that's at the Winchester Leisure Park, and then we've got one on the 22nd of October, and that's at the Arc. But equally, people don't have to sew at their block at the community sewing day. They can do it in their own time, and equally, as they're not feeling confident sewing, they can just submit a piece of fabric that has a really special meaning for them.
Once finished, the memory quilts will be put on display at the Winchester Arc before being donated to the hospice as a reminder of the love and support of the Winchester community and the power of our memories and stories. And if you'd like to find out more about those community sewing events, visit stjohnswinchester.co.uk. And that's all for this week. Many thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Winchester Now. We hope you've enjoyed this Winchester radio programme. Remember, if you have a story to share with us, please do get in touch. You can drop us an email at news@winchester.radio. And you can follow us on social media, including Facebook and Twitter. Just search for Winchester Radio.
Winchester Radio.